Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Buck with the Beats, real name Paul Altman Jr. Of course, you already know that. Sorry if my room is a little bit a mess. The reason why I wanted to talk today, I know in the last couple of days I got some random comments that I had to remove. Basically, in particular, my reaction to the 60-minute interview with the Cascio brothers and Nicole Marie. If for those who are not informed, these are quote unquote Michael Jackson's second family. They used to hang out with him for 20 years from 1983 all the way to the day he passed away. It's kind of like now because of what they're coming forward and what their accusations are and they've been talking for a while now, and so I just wanted to address that. And since they've been speaking out, well, I think it's time for me to really take a deep dive and basically going through the arbitration, which is the petition and all that. And before anybody else, before we go forward as well, I want to address some things. Number one, some people say I was in a cult, which I'm not. Someone was asking me, if I was on quote unquote high, whatever. I'm not. I'm just autistic, and people seem to like really bypass of what I said. And some say I live in a reality. Whatever. That's their weirdness around that, I guess. But before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and share this with your friends and family. Especially share this with the Michael Jackson fan community as well. I will say that in particular that I am also a SA survivor. That is something that not a lot of people comprehend, but I can't control what everybody else would say. And also, if you want to support me, please become a member on Patreon and show your support. That would really mean a lot. So, without further ado, let's dive in right after the intro.
It's Big Buck.
I'm a broke boy, but I got big dreams. I'm a broke boy, but I got big dreams. I'm a broke boy, but I got big dreams. I may be a broke boy, but I got big dreams.
Of course, we have to start off with this right here, where it says petitioners. Obviously, the Michael Jackson Company LLC, John Branca and John McClane individually and as officers of the Michael Jackson Company, and co-executors of the Michael Jackson State Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, which is their petition for order compelling arbitration. This has 34 pages. So let's get to the second one. Petitioners, attorneys for petitioners, the Michael Jackson Company, LLC, obviously, which is the introduction. Even after the death, Michael Jackson's unparalleled musical and financial success continues to make his legacy a target for devious opportunists. This petition arose from a 213 million civil extortion scheme orchestrated by such opportunists. Respondents Frank DeLeo and Jane Doe's, which is we all know as his siblings Eddie, Dominic, Aldo, and Nicole Marie. For over 30 years, respondents have held themselves as Michael Jackson's second family, and they have been among Michael Jackson's most passionate defenders. Few people outside of Michael Jackson's own family were as vocal as respondents in defending him against false child molestation allegations in the media. During that time, Frank volunteered countless first-hand accounts detailing Michael Jackson's kindness toward children, among with unequivocal, I can't really make out these words, but I think some people know what I mean. Statements that he never abused any of them, especially Frank himself. Indeed, while the jury in Michael's 2005 criminal trial was deliberating, ultimately acquitting Michael on all charges. Frank, using the name Frank Tyson, told Court TV, "I wouldn't be here if I thought that man was a pedophile." However, after Michael's death and the financial success of the estate of Michael Jackson, Frank and his cohorts threatened that unless they were paid substantial sums of money, they would instead go public with the accusations that were completely contrary to their proclaim of his innocence. It was a shakedown. Frank and the Does, meaning his siblings, recently retained Mark Garagos, confusing, who himself has a history of as a zealous advocate for Michael Jackson's innocence. Significantly, Garagos previously represented Michael Jackson and in court testimony, television interviews, and a book there's the YouTube link, he has consistently defended Michael Jackson and denounced any accusations that has been made against Michael Jackson acting inappropriately, even going as so far as to declare a national television audience watching Good Morning America that there's nothing sexual going on between Michael Jackson and children.
And I will not lie, I believed him at that time, that when he said that there was nothing going on. I believe now, because of this accusation, I can't good conscience defend Frank anymore, especially when things were going on allegedly. I'm saying this allegedly. Sorry for wearing two different outfits. I can't believe this. And I want to use my platform not only as an artist and a musician and content creator, but also I want to really emphasize, because I am a lifetime fan of Michael Jackson and people that did the research, that I will honestly say that I believe in Michael's innocence 1000%. So that is still stands. And on my last video, I don't know if I said this or not, but I probably did, that I did this last video where in one of my shorts that I was promoting the video I was doing, some people were saying that I live in some type of cult. Like, what the fuck? No, that's not the case. I can't emphasize that enough. Now, going back to the arbitration petition, and that Michael Jackson did nothing illegal. In his book, Mistrial Inside Look at How the Criminal Justice System Works and Sometimes Doesn't, Mark Garagos' book. When people ask about Michael Jackson, they want to know if we believe he was a child molester. We represented Michael for about 18 months, and we did not see or hear any evidence at all that he ever hurt children. Garagos related that what we do know is that Michael was absolutely 100%, the key word, 100% innocent of the charges brought against him in Santa Maria. What we believe is this: the prosecution was nothing more than a vendetta by Stanton, a bitter, angry man at the end of his career, who was trying to get Michael before he quit. Even more recently, Garagos criticized the so-called documentary Leaving Neverland, saying on the Megyn Kelly show, that documentary, bitter on my tongue, that mockumentary maker should be ashamed of himself, calling the film one-sided, a complete rewrite of history. In fact, Garagos pointedly defended Michael against molestation accusations by emphatically noting, people would say, would you take your son to Neverland? Actually, I did on several occasions. Garagos' son was around 10 years old at that time. So, with that being said, that Garagos, at this point of time, that his son was 10 when he took his son to Neverland, which is crazy. And now he believes that Michael is a pedo. Jesus Christ. It gets outlandish by the minute. Following the release of the so-called documentary hit piece about Michael Jackson containing numerous false accusations concerning Michael, respondents saw an opportunity
co-authored by, well, I guess the book, co-authored by Mark Garagos and Pat Harris, initially published on April 11th, 2013. This is the book right here. Look at the release date. It's the same book. Check out the release date, April 11th, 2013. Look at this prices. The hard copy, $17. Well, at least they ain't charging anyone for about $50 for a damn book nowadays. Well, I'm not buying this book. I'm just not. I'm not gonna buy this book. If you thought that was a shocker, we're gonna watch that Megyn Kelly interview just a little bit, and then you'll make the judge out of this.
So we've gotten childhood abuse. We've gotten allegations of abuse, child abuse and molestation against him. We've gotten the threat of losing his own children potentially. We've gotten, crazy, avid, obsessive plastic surgery and skin color changes and incredible fame, like just mind-numbing, crazy-ass fame and attention. And then a bizarre death. So that's kind of the arc of the Michael story. But in there really has been the question of, is he or isn't he on the molestation? Everyone wants to know, is he or isn't he? We want to know. There are some very disturbing allegations. So I'll start with the most recent. You mentioned that there were recent allegations, and indeed there are. So this is a family that was supposedly his, quote, second family. And they had been defending Michael for all these years, saying no, including, I think, four young children who used to spend tons of time at Neverland Ranch, which was made to look like Disney. I mean, Michael's room, he always used to say he was like Peter Pan who never grew up. And his bedroom had a Peter Pan figure in there, a Captain Hook figure, like hanging from the ceiling. It was all done up to look like a Peter Pan.
Well, I will tell you, at Neverland, the two things that always struck me was there was a 2-story video arcade that when you turned on the lights was absolutely incredible. And then you've got right there the other area that is adjacent. I think, as I remember, it was adjacent to the theater, which I also thought was
the amusement park.
The amusement
He's
park
there
right
with
there.
Macaulay Culkin in one of the rides, but keep going, Mark.
So the interesting thing, in full disclosure, the family you're talking about is the Cascio family. And I will tell you, if you spend time with them, they are convincing. They are persuasive.
I'm sorry, what he said?
They are persuasive.
Yeah, I thought so. And then I don't understand how he would flip-flop from this
That documentary maker should be ashamed of himself.
to now.
They are persuasive.
Beats me, I guess. Let's go ahead going on with his bullshit.
8 hours later.
To enrich themselves despite having a decades-long friendship with Michael Jackson, and after years of passionately defending Michael against false and scurrilous accusations made by third parties, respondents decided to exploit the negative publicity following the release of the film in 2019 in order to try to profit from making their own salacious accusations against Michael. To do so, respondents' representatives insisted on meeting with MJC's representatives at the Sunset Marquis Hotel swimming pool, wearing only bathing suits so that MJC's representative cannot wear a wire to record the conversation. Only someone engaging in extortion or other unlawful conduct will be worried about their conversations being recorded. A truthful person asserting legitimate legal claims should have no objection, to being recorded. After a bizarre swimming pool meeting, MJC tried to negotiate a life rights and consulting deal with respondents passant, to which respondents would have been compensated in exchange for providing MJC with personal content such as home movies and other memorabilia depicting Michael's close bond and joyful interactions with respondents and their family over the years. However, the negotiation with respondents morphed into a shakedown in which Frank and his cohorts each demand submittal some minimal amounts of money. Otherwise, they threatened to concoct false accusations against Michael, which were the opposite of their prior glowing statements about Michael they had made in his defense over the prior decades. And they were afraid to do so. This because there are no protection against defamation claims for a deceased person. And that goes a long way, which they have done in a most horrific fashion. On the recommendation of counsel with respect to their obligation as fiduciaries, in 2020, MJC reluctantly entered into a confidential acquisition and consulting agreement dated on or about January 10th, 2020 with respondents and others. Herein the agreements because the agreements contain strict confidentiality provisions. Petitioners have redacted portions of the agreement that are not relevant to this proceeding. A true and correct copy of the agreement from which certain provisions not relevant to this petition have been redacted is attached hereto as per Exhibit 1. Thereafter, the agreement was modified by a letter of direction dated January 28th, 2020, which adjusted the timing of certain payments to be made to the parties under the agreement and directed where certain payments should be sent, but the agreement remained the same in all other respects. Pursuant agreement, respondents and the other parties to the agreement were paid over a period of 5 years in order to prevent Michael's family, particularly his children, from having to be subjected to any further false accusations against Michael and to protect future projects important to Michael's legacy. And I think that has something to do with this factor of, wanting to preserve what Michael was about in terms of artistic and personality. And I think the estate has dropped the ball on this one. I really believe that they dropped the ball on this one. But I do understand that they had to protect Michael's family, particularly his children, Prince, Paris, and BG. So I understand why they had to do that. The agreement contains comprehensive releases of any claims against MJC, the estate of Michael Jackson, and their officers, executors, attorneys, and other representatives, strict confidentiality and non-disparagement provisions, and provides that any disputes among these parties arising from or related to the agreement must be arbitrated. After receiving the money paid to them pursuant to the agreement, Frank, through respondents' then attorney, demanded that respondents be paid in hundreds of millions of dollars more, or else respondents would file a bogus public lawsuit containing outlandish accusations against Michael that are completely contrary to their prior statements upon supporting and defending Michael. Respondents' lawyer also warned that they expect a substantive response by the end of day tomorrow. Otherwise,
we will be forced to expand the circle of knowledge.
And alluded to their claims being revealed to the buyer of the catalog if their demands wasn't satisfied. Again, this is all about money. As a result, Frank threats to breach the agreement binding and mandatory confidentiality arbitration provisions by threatening a public lawsuit on January 17th, 2024. MJC filed a demand for arbitration against Frank, asserting claims for civil extortion, anticipatory breach of contract, and declaratory relief, which proceeding is currently pending before signature resolution case ID. Wow. Shortly after MJC's initial demand for arbitration was filed against Frank, respondent's then attorney anonymously delivered a draft lawsuit to MJC's attorneys, which named one of the officers of MJC and co-executors of the estate of Michael Jackson as defendants in a bogus defamatory defamation claim manufactured by respondents in a transparent attempt to cultivate the arbitration provision in the agreement. Currently, on September 24th, 2024, a supplemental demand for arbitration was filed, adding an additional claim for declaratory relief against Frank with respect to his alleged defamation claim against one of the officers of MJC and co-executor of the estate of Michael Jackson. Thereafter, on January 3rd, 2025, respondents' then counsel, Howard King, notified signature resolution that Frank and other respondents intended to exert counterclaims against MJC, Branca, and other individuals and entities related to Michael Jackson, including presumably for defamation. Thus, respondents have clearly acknowledged through their then attorney that any affirmative claims that may have against MJC and the released parties under the agreement must be resolved pursuant to arbitration. No doubt, frustrated that their extortion demand has not been satisfied, respondents recently switched lawyers to Mark Garagos. Garagos' representatives of respondents is ironic given his own steadfast defense of Michael Jackson over the years, including proclaiming Michael Jackson's innocence in a book that Garagos co-authored. Through attorney Garagos, respondents renewed their threats to file in a public domain a fictitious lawsuit against petitioners and others refusing to arbitrate. Despite this pending arbitration, Garagos threatened that respondents are poised to immediately file a public lawsuit against petitioners and others, including agents of MJC and other third-party beneficiaries of the agreement. You know, it gets better. It really, really gets better. Well, not really. I already know. You can read the rest. We need to look at the background, which is the factual background. More than 3 decades, Frank and his cohorts proudly describes themselves as, for more than 3 decades, Frank and his cohorts proudly describes themselves as musical icon Michael Jackson's second family, and they were among Jackson's staunchest defenders when faced accusations made by opportunists seeking fame and fortune. Indeed, few people outside of Michael Jackson's own family were vocal as Frank and other respondents in defending Michael against false child molestation allegations in the media. In a 2005 interview on ABC Primetime Live, Frank, under the name Frank Tyson, stated,
I want to tell you something. If Michael ever laid a finger on me, I would not be sitting in this chair right now.
Same thing happens. Same thing in the same interview on Wendy Williams' show. When Frank was asked, was there anything sexual with Michael, he responded with absolute certainty, nothing at all. And that's what makes me upset. For years, Frank has made his primary vocation to publicly defend Michael Jackson. Frank's 2011 book, My Friend Michael, and an Ordinary Friendship with an Extraordinary Man. The book is a 300-page tribute to Michael Jackson that both honors and defends him. Over the past 25 years that Frank knew him, he dedicated to the book to Michael, my teacher. Thank you for being a father, brother, mentor, and a friend, and for the greatest adventure I could have ever imagined. I love you and miss you every day with all my love, Frank. Kind of ironic, isn't it? Dozens of times, Frank's book declared that Michael never did anything harm to Frank himself, other respondents, or any children, and adamantly declared that Michael had been wrongfully accused by liars. Frank's book adamantly confirmed that he could state with absolute conviction of a man who saw Michael interact with thousands of kids, that in all the years I was close to him, I saw nothing that raised any red flags, not as a child and not as an adult. Michael may have been eccentric, but that didn't make him a criminal. Frank's unequivocally, I want to be precise and clear on the record so that everyone can read and understand. Michael's love for children was innocent and it was profoundly misunderstood. People seem to have trouble accepting all the good qualities of this incredible man. Frank also wrote in the book that Michael was being attacked by liars and that the allegations were all bullshit. Facts. Although it's kind of ironic now, given the fact that what Frank and his family were saying now. There was nothing ambiguous about the whole thing. These people were after Michael's money, but he was innocent, and we were going to destroy him in court. I felt confident about that. Even now, Frank is still trying to profit from Michael's legacy by presently peddling memorabilia he claims he was given to by his friend Michael, and he has continued to describe himself as a close friend and personal assistant to Michael. Like, I really wish that I would have believed Frank now, but I just can't. Ew! Ugh! Next page. This is the stuff that it's been auctioned off by the Cassios. I strongly believe. I mean, I wouldn't put it past. Again, really, like, are we dead ass right now? The man has been passed away for 17 years now, almost 20. Like, get out of here. I'll do like one more of this, and then we'll move on to the transportation lawsuit that they made. So this is just part 1 and 2 of the first half of the video. And I'm just saying this as a disclosure that this is just my personal opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and make that known. All right, let's go with one more page. Frank and the others still said no improprieties ever occurred to them and Michael. They decided to speak out because they wanted to show the world who Michael really was. Significantly, Frank and the 2 respondents directly told Oprah and her national TV audience that Michael Jackson never engaged in any improprieties with them. When Oprah asked respondents, were there any improprieties with you and Michael Jackson? They resoundingly responded with the unison never. One of the respondents also explained to Oprah and her audience that Michael was a target, and unfortunately, he was targeted. So yeah, okay, this was part 1. So we'll move on to the next one. It'll take me like a couple minutes.
Eventually.
Now we're gonna go here to the transportation case, which is under. Now they took it to United States District Court, Central District of California, Western Division, which the complaint, which is transportation of children by force, fraud, or coercion, negligence, intentional infliction of emotional distress, breach of contract, fraud, breach of fictionary duty, recession, and declaratory judgment. And they demanded a jury trial, which is going to be, I don't know, I think this is ongoing. Plaintiffs Eddie, Dominic, Marie Nicole, and Aldo hereby alleges that Michael Jackson was a serial child pedophile over the course of more than a decade, drugged, raped, and essayed each of the plaintiffs, beginning when some of them were as young as 7 or 8. Jackson's alleged attacks, by the way, on these siblings went on for extended periods, including locations around the world and when Jackson and his children were guests in plaintiff's family home. Jackson allegedly groomed and brainwashed each plaintiff without the knowledge of the others or their parents. Throughout their childhood years, Jackson used methods of a typical PDF file, allegedly, but with his wealth and fame and the apparatus of personal advisors and employees who aided and abetted it and actively concealed the abuse, gave them far more power than any other victims than other serial or child PDF files. So irritating. Jackson insinuated himself, allegedly, into the lives of plaintiffs and their parents with obsessive attention, lavish gifts, access to a celebrity lifestyle, and declarations that he loved and needed each of them. After the alleged abuse started, he isolated them emotionally and sometimes physically from responsible adults and from each other. He applied them with drugs and he showed them corn, including pictures of unclothed children, to normalize the abuse and desanitize them. He made them fear and distress others by convincing them that not only his life but also their lives and the lives of their family members would be destroyed if anyone found out. Like, what? Hold up. Like, my goodness. This is irritating, man. Like, in hindsight, I would have, like, with any other person that isn't aware of this family, sorry, excuse me, and also not know about Michael Jackson and all that. This is the family who Michael considered at one point in his life his second family. And I remember them very clearly as they made some tracks, particularly Eddie, that made the tracks. So, like, Keep Your Head Up, Monster, and Breaking News. And they did some other songs that didn't make it to the album. In hindsight, I think that's for the best because they hired Jason Malachi. If you're not heard of Faking Michael, I think that with a fresh ears, we'll give it a listen. So, and another thing is that I would have, I mean, I guess to some degree that if I was just another person looking in without the Michael Jackson fandom, I'd be like, but this is a stretch, at least to me. Defendants and their employees provided the drugs and corn, facilitated Jackson's being left alone during the essays, and covered the abuse afterwards, alleged abuse. 15 years after Jackson's death and the well-publicized release of the mockumentary as I like to call it, Leaving Neverland, detailing the alleged abuse of other children, that arbitration continues to use its enormous wealth and power to try to silence plaintiffs and prevent them from seeking justice. After the mockumentary's release, defendants fraudulently induced the plaintiffs to sign a deceptive and unconscionable document that the Jackson estate created to attempt to prohibit plaintiffs from talking about the years of the alleged abuse they endured. Again, I think that the estate dropped the ball on this one. More recently, defendants responded to detailed admissible evidence of Jackson's alleged crimes against plaintiffs with defamatory false accusations, threats, and public disclosure of a highly private information. Defendants have explicitly threatened to drive plaintiffs into bankruptcy if they made their claims public. Plaintiffs rejected the estate's morally bankrupt efforts to control and silence them, allegedly. Plaintiffs brings this action to hold the Michael Jackson estate and its affiliates and the persons who control or work on their behalf accountable for Jackson's alleged conduct and their own wrongdoing. The party follows Eddie, Dominic, Marie Nicole, and Aldo. And Eddie, Dominic, and Marie Nicole live in South Carolina, and Aldo lives in California, which is crazy. I'm surprised that but Dan Reed hasn't even tried to have them interviewed. Anyway, defendant John Branca is, and at times, material herein as a co-administrator of the estate of Michael Jackson, and the trustee and the co-trustee of the Michael Jackson Family Trust. References herein after the Jackson estate. He is named herein individually in those capacities, and on information and belief is, and at all times material herein has been a resident of this district. They listed everybody, including Herman Weisberg. I don't even know who he is. Okay, the allegations right here. Plaintiffs met Jackson through their father, who met Jackson while working at a luxury hotel where Jackson frequently stayed. After gaining plaintiffs and their family's trust, Jackson allegedly essayed each of the plaintiffs for years, starting when some of them were as young as 7 and 8 years old and continue into their adolescence. These alleged abuse, included the following: Jackson raped and molested Eddie on interstate and international trips, among others, during the stops on the Dangerous World Tour, at Elizabeth Taylor's house in Switzerland, at Elton John's house in the United Kingdom, and at Neverland. Jackson allegedly raped and molested Dominic on interstate and international trips, including Florida, New Jersey, New York, France, and South Africa, and during the History World Tour, at Neverland Ranch, and at the Cascio family home in New Jersey. Jackson allegedly raped and molested Aldo on interstate and international trips, including at Neverland, New York, at the Cascio family home, on video shoot locations, and at recording sections. Now, if that was true, then somebody would have said something. Now, going back to my last one, I'm not gonna read the rest. Okay, this one will be my last, and because this is weird. Jackson allegedly essayed Marie Nicole on interstate and international trips, including Neverland, New York, Las Vegas, Florida, and at the Cascio family home. He was unsuccessfully attempted to essay Marie Nicole in Bahrain. What the fuck? Hold the fuck on, man. Like my goodness. If she was referencing Bahrain as in 2005, that must have meant that this was after the trial in 2005 about Gavin. Like, this is making my head spin just a bit. Jackson barely saw anyone. The only person that he ever interacted with was the Bahrainian prince, and that relationship didn't go that well with Michael and the Bahrainian prince. But that's either here or there in this case. But with these whole entire thing in this lawsuit that the Cascio siblings have filed, it's just it makes my head spin just a bit, and it makes me scratch my balls every time I hear this. Like, this is ridiculous at best. Like, what? Like, come on, man. Like, and then the icing on the cake on the 60-minute interview. Like, my gosh, man. Like, it's just so out of pocket, man. They waited for a long time to publicly come forward to say this, and you know what? I don't believe it. I honestly don't believe it, man. Like, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it, man. And you expect me to believe that he drink your piss, and you drink his piss? Like, what the fuck? You so nasty, bro. You are so nasty. You nasty as best. And second of all, how during 2005 and the time that he passed away, when he barely got out of bed, in his autopsy he says he had bed sores. Like, he's been in bed all those times in 2005 because he was so distressed. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going to get flamed on, but towards the end of his life, Michael had a catheter on his Special Men by Conrad Murray. Like, what? Like, are you serious? Again, it's just another recipe of disaster. Like, for this family. They auctioned off his memorabilia. You know, if he wanted to auction off to somebody, you know, at least give it to his kids. That belongs to his children. It doesn't belong to you. And those fake songs, I'm surprised that the CIA or the FBI come knocking on your damn door. But I don't know. That's just me, though, I guess. Thank y'all for watching the video. The videos that are, you know, new and hip. And thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on the social medias that is like under me. So and also don't forget to tune into my new music. You know, that's also under me. You know what I mean? So again, like and subscribe, and I try to post new content every other day. So thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time.